Guys, veuillez vous lever. Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
Thank you very much, and welcome back, everyone. May I take this opportunity before we proceed to remind the speakers, and I too will try to remember it myself, of the need to observe the little gap between speakers to make the lives of the interpreters and the court reporters easier. This time.
Mr. President, Your Honors, perhaps before the witness comes in and departing from where Your Honor has spoken, I'm a bit disturbed by the interpretation, the simultaneous interpretation that is going on, in the sense that in a number of instances, it does appear that it does not go very, very well with the dialect of Kiswahili that is spoken in Kenya. And I think this is a matter that is shared both by the prosecution and by the defense, and by other people that I have spoken to over the lunch hour. And I do not know what solution there would be to that, but there are situations. For example, at some point, there was a question put through to the witness with regard to the question that was put to her related to, or rather, the answer that she was given related to the word kutembea, which in our dialect of Kiswahili is walking on foot, basically going on foot. And I do recall my learned colleague, Mr. Steinberg, having quite a bit of a problem trying to ask whether the witness was traveling on foot or on a bicycle and so on. And the reason I can only understand to be because kutembea in other parts where Kiswahili is spoken means to travel rather than to walk. And that's just one of the perhaps clearer illustrations, but there are quite a number of them that I did come across, and I just wanted to bring that to Your Honor's attention. Thank you.
Ms. Steinberg, what's your reaction to that?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not speak Kiswahili, but there are those in my office that have reported on, not so much on mistranslations, but in one specific instance on something the witness said that was not translated. That might be due more to the pace at which she was at that time speaking. In that regard, I would suggest that I will try to take measures to pace the witness, to indicate to her when she must pause. If Your Honours would give you some latitude to ask her to look at me, and when I raise my hand, if she could just stop talking to allow the interpreters to catch up, I think that that would assist in that regard. As regards to what appears to be a difficulty with regional dialects and different meanings of different terms, the only solution I can suggest is that at the end of the day, if it comes to parties' attention that there have been mistranslation, that should be brought to the court's attention in the normal manner that one would do with any sort of defects with the transcripts. As I stand here, I can think of no other solution. Unless my learned friend and any of the other parties that are fluent in Swahili could bring it to the court's attention sooner, but that might unfortunately then involve repeatedly interrupting the witness, which is also not desirable. Those are the two solutions I have in mind, and I leave it to Your Honours as to which is preferable.
Any reaction from the defence bar?
Your Honour, in all courts and in all proceedings, interpretation is, of course, important, and there are sometimes difficulties. We don't want to overstate matters. I think the thrust and the detail, in fact, of this morning was adequately and properly interpreted from English into Swahili and vice versa. But I do submit, with respect, that there's a great deal of sense in my London friend's proposal that the best way of proceeding is that if something arises in the course of proceedings that is important, not peripheral, but it goes to the substance of the testimony, parties always can maybe rise and ask for the question to be re-put again. Or at the end of the day, if there are clear errors, that can be brought to the attention to the court translation and interpretation section, and a finalised version of the transcript can be promulgated in due course. But, Your Honours, I don't think it's unintelligible. It's not double Dutch, even though we're in Holland. I think it's just a little bit of finesse here and there on occasion. So, Your Honours, I think we can proceed without delay.
It appears.
With your permission, Mr. President and Your Honours, unlike Mr. Steinbach and Mr. Karim, I also understand Kiswahili, and I can say that there are some aspects of the translation that have also concerned us. For instance, there are instances when the witness used the word adui, which the English version is enemy, but the translator used the word group. There are instances when a witness said the people are wearing khaki shorts, and the translation that was given was that it was leaves. I would agree that for purposes of expeditious proceedings today, we could pick out the issues that need to be rectified. But I think in the long term, probably the issue of the translator should be regionalized so that if somebody would understand the way Kiswahili is spoken in Kenya and would give it an approximately accurate interpretation, if not the accurate interpretation, in the long term. Thank you, Mr. President and Your Honours.
Thank you very much. It seems to me that this is something we can approach from the perspective of good sense, common sense, and goodwill on the part of everyone. There may be instances where, of course, the prosecution's own understanding of their case and the witness's testimony might have that finessed approach to the answer the witness is given, and in order to pursue certain matters with further questioning. That's one way, of course, of doing it. Another way would be where there is an instance where, as Mr. Ken said, on sort of the big issues, there may be a need to draw attention to the matter so it's clarified, without allowing the proceedings to be derailed at that point on that sort of issue, and then leave the rest for what may be safely taken up after. I think we can, all working together, we're able to proceed in that way. Again, there's a critical need to draw attention while it happens to possible misinterpretation. Up to a point, the chamber should be able to contain that. I mean, if things start getting out of hand, we can intervene to stop it. But we should try not to provoke that sort of prospect.
Thank you, Your Honours. I'm grateful.
Are you ready now to proceed?
I am ready to proceed with the witness.
Court officer, if we can lower the lines so that the witness may be brought back in.
If I may, while that process is continuing, if I can just place on record the prosecution is without Ms. Tai this afternoon. She has another engagement. Otherwise, we are the same.
The record will reflect that, okay.